It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. Welcome to the very last official summertime show for Red Eye Radio.
The end of climate change.
It's the end of summer, and so tell us about your summer. Don't tell us about. We don't care. Don't tell us about your summer vacation.
Well,
we don't want to know. We probably already do know. A lot of our listeners actually send us stories and pictures. But seriously,
what I did over my summer vacation?
Yeah,
I got up. I looked for a job. I hung out in front of the drugstore. On the second day of my vacation, I woke up, looked for a job, hung out in front of the drugstore. Third day of my vacation, summer vacation, I woke up, looked for a job, got a job, kicking kids out who were hanging out in front of the drugstore.
Yeah.
Cheech and Chong.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's amazing because
that sounds like my first summer out of high school.
I haven't even thought of that in 50 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, there it is in that file in the brain.
Oh, man. I watched a stand-up special. I don't know if it ever streamed anywhere, but it ended up on YouTube. And the two of them doing something in a comedy club somewhere. I don't know if it was a benefit or not. They have not skipped a beat. Tommy Chong, for all that we know about him, allegedly, his brain is attack. He is so sharp with their bits. I mean, he didn't miss a beat. And Cheech Marin was on. I mean, it was just watching them. And I go back to the days. I mean, I was a kid. I was way too young to be listening to their albums. But we listened to them. By the way, we listened to it on vinyl before vinyl was cool. It was all we had.
Vinyl wasn't cool. It was the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, we had cassettes, but you can't leave that in your car because it would melt.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But, yeah, they were, I mean, it was so funny.
Yeah, you think about that. No kid today has to go through the cassette jamming in the car, and then you hit the eject, and it comes out, and you've got tape inside of the cassette deck in your car. You're driving 55 miles an hour because that was the top speed limit back there in the 70s. You weren't allowed to go any faster.
Of course.
And you're trying to get the tape out without destroying it because you've got your favorite mix on there. and then you finally get it out and you take that pencil and you put it inside the little gear.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and then
well, you had to have a pencil and it couldn't be a pen.
No, it had to be a pencil.
There was one Bic pen that would work in if you were in a tight spot. But frankly, you shouldn't push it. Your first aid kit had some Band-Aids, some gum, possibly a prophylactic, and then a pencil. The pencil was a must. What? What happened?
Oh, man.
By the way, Sting said his new album, they're putting it on vinyl and cassette. And I don't think he was joking about the cassette thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to deal with cassettes anymore.
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
Because we don't have to. I also don't want to deal with CDs. Vinyl has a rich sound if you've got the right turntable.
Yeah, it does.
And my wife bought one for me. She uses it mainly, but she bought one for me, for a long time. It was a long time ago for a gift. And she uses, I've got it set up on the Bluetooth speakers, and we listen to anything and everything on vinyl that we have, and we're building the collection again. There are a lot of things that like take us back, like certain Christmas albums, from growing up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just it really is about nostalgia, but there is a rich sound to it. I can't hear very well, so it doesn't really make a difference to me, but she loves it.
One thing I would like to do, because I have some records that never made it, the bands were so obscure, and I still have the records, and
Yeah.
I would like to get the turntable that will put it on digital.
Yeah.
I haven't done that yet. I probably have about 20 or 30 that I'd like to do that with. But for me, I don't know what I have, 6,000-7,000 songs on my phone, and the Rocket Player software where it depends on the intro of the song and whether one has a cold ending or a cold beginning, but you can adjust it where you're actually mixing music.
Yeah. Right.
And it actually sounds like somebody's mixing the songs, and you can go in. Now you've got to. It takes you a little bit to adjust it, because you go, okay, let me move it a millisecond forward.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
millisecond back, whatever, and so that's pretty good. And then they also have the technology. It's not perfected yet, but it's getting better, and it's where they've equalized the sounds between the volumes between old CDs and new CDs.
Yeah.
Because and digital.
Right. Yeah.
And
MP3s were bad about
right.
that.
And the remastered stuff, too. And so they actually have it's not a limiter like you have a radio station, which will take anything and make the volumes equally, but the technology, and it's improving. I've noticed with the software updates over the last couple of years, I'll say, wow, that song isn't as low as it used to be. So with that, and the fact that probably my hearing's going to, even though I've never recognized it at all in any way. For me, it sounds fine.
Yeah, right.
And on my Bose, especially my Bose Bluetooth speakers. Now I can put it through other speakers, but I have those 360 surround sound Bluetooth speakers, and it's
interesting because all of my music is all streaming. I have 2 different streaming services. And so I don't really download any music. I have my old Apple Music file, but, part of it was downloading stuff for grandkids, my youngest daughter. If I wanted, I guess, to carry, I don't have an iPhone. I have a MacBook at home. But if I wanted to carry Apple Music with me, I could take my songs with me. Otherwise, I just stream everything on 2 different streaming services. And I've noticed, though, depending on the age of the music and whether or not it's been remastered, exactly what you just said, when MP3s first came out, when they hit, the sound was just it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And, you and I and many people in our industry who over the years have listened to, I don't know, a ton of music with headphones on. And it's the only way now that I listen anyway. I mean, because a lot of the heavy stuff I don't want to play. I'm not looking to bother my neighbors or my dog or my wife or my kids, my grandkids. Actually, my kids and grandkids, we share a lot of the same music, but it's in terms of taste. But I forget which artist it was recently, and I went back and I pulled it up on the streaming, and I was in my truck. Man, the volumes were just not, they were all over the place.
I took, it was a couple of months where every waking moment, I took every CD that I had, and I don't remember the last time I bought a CD, but I probably bought a couple here, especially from artists that I like that aren't popular, and, they may not have it on digital and they have the CD available, and so I'll get it. And then I'll download it to digital. But I went through 2 months. I had over 1,000. I still have over 1,000 CDs.
Yeah.
but
I have crates filled
yeah,
with CDs.
they're all packed away.
Yeah.
Because once I put everything on digital, and I don't buy a lot of music, but if I do, new music, but if I do, I actually buy the music and then I put it on.
Mm-hmm.
I put it on. Everything is self-contained in there. And I've got all the different streaming services too, which is really great. And, when you have, we always talk about our Red Eye Radio app, but, you've got the apps and things like that. So it really, that's the one thing for me. They've made it, the smartphone today, and you really think about the technology that it took to get there from what we had just 15 years ago, even 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that everything is seamless now. You've got this
Oh, it
smartphone
is, yeah.
and it just
Yeah.
does everything. And people say, well, that's terribly expensive. And I forgot, because you got the phone at the same time, and I did it over, they would only give you the bargain if you did it over 2 years with the trade-in. But I think the phone, $500, $600 maybe? Is what it is. What it was,
with the
something like
trade-in, something like that.
700
I don't
something.
remember, but yeah.
But when you think about it, when I think about remember going to the stereo store and you'd get I'm buying a receiver, and then then you have to buy, it's like, okay, should I get the receiver with the little equalizer? Nah. I got to get the big equalizer.
Yeah.
You get the big equalizer, you get the turntable, you got the cassette deck, and then later you added on the CD player, in the late 80s, 2 big monstrous speakers. And even back then, that was $2,000.
Oh, yeah.
And
easy, yeah.
And so you think about that, everything that you have in a phone today. And coming up, we'll play part of Pete Buttigieg, who apparently doesn't understand the difference between technology, great and new technology in the marketplace versus using antiquated technology and subsidizing it for electric vehicles.
Right.
He was called out on that.
Yeah.
That got lost yesterday. Pete Buttigieg was before Congress, and they were blasting him. And he's completely clueless.
No, he is clueless.
He's just clueless.
He doesn't have
any idea about science or technology or electricity. He really doesn't.'s absolutely clueless. You could have taken a junior high student and put them in that Secretary of Transportation job.
And that's not even, that's really isn't hyperbole at all.
No, it's not.
Actually, they would have, someone of that age, 12, 13 years old, would have figured it out, and he doesn't have the will to learn it. And it's just ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah.
And the technology thing, this whole kick on the government mandates and him sounding like he's reading from some kind of leftist Hollywood, movie script. And you could tell because he was repeating these lines he thought was going to be his sound bites.
Oh.
He thought it was going to go viral. You're not that cool. Sorry. You're lagging far behind.
And then we also have this. I'd like to play this audio here.
All right, what do you got?
We have this from yesterday.
All right.
How many people coming into this country illegally is enough for President Biden then?
Say that last one?
How many people illegally coming into the United States is enough for President Biden's administration?
Enough for what?
Okay, so that was one part where she just, what are you talking about? What do you mean? And then there's this with Pete Ducey.
Thanks, Green. So what do you call it here at the White House when 10,000 people illegally cross the border in a single day?
So what do you call it, Peter, when GOP put forth a wait, no, you can't.
Green?
I'm answering. Okay, we're going to move
You're
on.
answering the question with a question? Okay.
No, we're moving on.
Green,
We're moving.
please.
In the back.
Now, you said you were stopping the flow at the border.
No.
10,000
I tried to
migrants-
answer, Peter.
okay.
I tried to answer the question. You stopped me. Let's go. Good.
No, you didn't.
No, you brought the question.
You answering with a question isn't an answer.
Because he was responding to when she said we're stopping people at the border.
Yeah.
And he goes, then what do you call it when 10,000 cross the border in a single day?
Right.
This is killing them right now.
The border crisis is really not good for the Democratic Party.
And then you have this with Kathy Hochul, governor of New York. You ready for this?
All right,
here we go.
We have to let the word out that when you come to New York, we're not going to have more hotel rooms. We don't have capacity. So we have to also message properly that we're at our limit. If you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else. But the smarter thing is,
What type
Wow.
of hypocritical xenophobia is that? And I say hypocritical because she's all for sanctuary cities.
Right.
But the xenophobia that is coming from Democrats today by their own standard.
Yeah.
We're talking about Democrats by their standard.
Mm-hmm.
The xenophobia, the hatred towards immigrants that's coming from Democrats today by their own standard. The absolute vile hatred of Democrats towards immigrants.
Well, and New York of all places?
Yeah. Boy, this is fun.
It was the doorway for immigration.
Yep.
How dare you? Did that sound genuine?
Did mine? Okay.
I got to hear it on vinyl first.
866-90 Red Eye.
Did you know that up to half of all major engine failures are due to poor cooling system maintenance? That's a lot of downtime and can cost drivers big. You expect a lot from your engine, which is why the cooling system must be a part of your maintenance routine. Here's a tip to keep your cooling system in shape and your engine running smooth. Make sure the system is properly filled with coolant at every PM interval and during pre- and post-trip inspections. Underfilling the cooling system can cause corrosion and your engine to overheat. Coolant is also used to keep DEF tanks thawed in the winter. If you notice unusually low coolant levels, be sure to have your cooling system inspected by a professional technician. This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Well, it's time for a slob elitism update.
All right. Okay. What do you got? My button's not working. What do you got?
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Right.
Good to have you on the show.
Yeah. I listen to it sometimes.
Dick Durbin has come out. He has come out against Schumer and the Fetterman slob rule.
Uh-huh.
He says there needs to be standards. And he acknowledged that it's only about Fetterman.
Yeah.
He goes, the senator in question from, quote, the senator in question from Pennsylvania is a personal friend, but I think we need to have standards when it comes to what we're wearing on the floor of the Senate, and we're in the process of discussing that right now as to what those standards would be, Durbin said. Ooh. Manchin also saw the story on there yesterday. He wants to get that rule changed.
Well, it's when you look at it, I started thinking because there are so many memes coming from this.
Oh, my God, it's so bad.
The one where he's up there with other senators, but someone has a superimposed floor buffer, like he's holding a floor buffer, like he's just the cleaning guy or something. And it was just relentless. And I thought to myself, great. Congratulations, Chuck. You've made a slob look even worse. And, there was focus on it from the right. Now that the rule changed, everybody is mocking it.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
In True Night Radio. He's Eric Carly. I'm Gary McNamara on a dress down slob Friday.
You know what? I totally screwed up. I wore pants.
Look at this. I got pants on.
What do you got?
I got pants. Look at
You got
this.
pants
Yeah,
on. What
pants.
See, we didn't get the memo. Somebody, one of our great listeners, wrote me and said, this was a few days ago on X, and said,
Formerly known as Twitter.
yeah, I'm going to quit saying that. If you don't know by now, you're probably not on X. And by that, I don't mean the drug. You have to be careful how you phrase it. And he said, I can't wear aviators or hoodies anymore. They've ruined it for me. You know, Joe with the aviators. And I was just thinking it the other day. My sunglasses are aviators, but they're prescription. And so when I'm driving, I wear them. And I used to keep them on. Like if I went into a restaurant, I'd walk in and then just kind of put them away when I got inside or whatever. Now I put them up before I get out of the truck. And it's the same thing because I saw myself in the reflection in a window or something. And I was like, nope, Joe has ruined it. And then I was going through one of my coat closets, and one of the hoodies, we rarely have, this is the good news, we live in Texas and rarely need a hoodie. But I have to agree with the listener. I'll feel like a slob if I put one on because of Fetterman. And by the way, kids and everybody's been wearing them for a long, long time, but they're not on the floor in the U.S. Senate.
So yesterday I'm packing because at noon today I'm just flying in to Buffalo, and I'm back Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. So I'm just flying. But I'm going to a concert on Saturday night.
Right.
So I'm just and I'll probably be at the driving range with my great nephew early on Saturday morning because that's what we normally do. I'll pick him up. We go to the driving range, whatever, because I want to get him, and he wants to get into golf because he's so focused on basketball, and it's like you need something else. You need to, and he wants to be a good golfer, but he expects that it should come like instantaneously. It's like
right.
He goes, I just can't hit it. I've been doing it for over 50 years. You never master golf ever, and the better you get, the more your expectations are, and the more frustrated you get. I know because I've been there, but. So it's going to be cold in the morning. The temperature now, originally a couple days ago, they said it would probably be around 80. Now they're saying when I get in later on today, it'll be about 76. That's fine. I can wear shorts for that and T-shirt because I'll be leaving here. And just a short drive to my dad's house, and it'll be 4:30 to 5 in the afternoon, which means it'll be in the mid-70s. That's fine. We're supposed to get down into the 50s on Saturday. And then, Saturday morning and then Saturday night when I'm at the show and I'm like, what am I going to wear? I'm looking at stuff. I'm looking for something that's light, but will cover more. Well, I have this really thin hoodie. And I go, wow, I haven't worn this in a while. Let me see how it fits. I put it on. I've got shorts on. I'm looking in the mirror. I went, my God, I'm Fetterman. This could be a Halloween. I looked at the first thing I thought. I was like, I'm Fetterman here.
Yeah.
And so I packed it in, and I don't know. I got a couple of things, different things I could wear. I'm like, I may do that, tomorrow when I go to the show and show up and go, hi, I'm Fetterman, because they're all.
Well,
the guys the people I'm going to the show with, they're all concerned.
I was doing some projects around the house and hit the shower yesterday, and I come out and I brushed my hair back, and then I realized I looked in the mirror and I'm like, Gavin Newsom. They're ruining everything. They're ruining. I was like, man, somebody hand me a blow dryer. I can't look this way.
Slick your hair
I
back.
gotta leave the house. I can't look like Gavin Newsom. I just can't do that.
No matter how much you try, though, you're never going to look like our Attorney General. You're never going to look like Garland. Unless the hair gets really gray.
Well, you know what's so funny? You said Attorney General, and you know what was going through my mind?
What?
Yellen. Not Merrick Garland. Because I was going to say, I might end up looking like Janet Yellen one day. Yeah. Yeah. She's kind of going for that Newt Gingrich look. Right? Am I wrong? I could be wrong. Maybe she's not. I mean,
she might be.
It's happening whether she is or not.
But just further on now, the pushback even coming from Democrats on the slob elitism of Chuck Schumer. Dick Durbin now is made it clear he's against what Schumer did. He said he doesn't know what Schumer was thinking when he approved the change, but he said he plans to speak to Schumer about it. I can't understand exactly what he was thinking at that point, he said, when asked why Schumer made the change. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt until I speak to him, but I think the Senate needs to act on this. Whoa.
All right.
Whoa. Wow. Durbin made his comments when asked to respond to criticism of the dress code change from the Washington Post editorial board.
Wow.
And other Senate Republican colleagues and Manchin, too. The Washington Post editorial writers wrote, quote, one would have thought that with public trust in government waning, the Senate might want to avoid looking even a tiny bit more like a high school cafeteria.
I'm old enough to remember when conservatives were the only ones calling Fetterman a slob.
The influential hometown paper described the Senate floor as the most sacred place in the Capitol and noted that it was the setting for America's most consequential debates on war and peace, freedom and slavery, and now sloppiness. Until now, I added the until sloppiness, just so you know. Until now, senators are required to wear coats and ties or business attire, and those who didn't meet the standard had to vote from the cloakrooms just off the floor by sticking their heads into the chamber to vote yes or nay. Now, it hasn't ended there. Also reported yesterday, Joe Manchin is circulating a proposal to reestablish the Senate's dress code. One person familiar with the resolution said it would essentially return. I signed it, said one senator who explained it would define what the dress code is. Wow.
Well, look, it appears this isn't going to last long.
John Cornyn said that there is a bipartisan group of senators who want to restore the Senate dress code.
Well, we know that's true now.
Calling it the Coalition of the Rational. I wouldn't go that far.
Well, it's we asked the question, what is Schumer trying to achieve? Because relaxing the dress code has nothing to do with Fetterman's physical or mental condition as a result of his stroke.
No, does not.
He is capable of getting dressed. He's capable of wearing suits. We've seen him do it. It is not a tremendous hardship. So we came to the conclusion, and no one's proven us wrong just yet, that there just might be something on Chuck Schumer that Fetterman has. And, man, I am dying to know what that is.
Because it doesn't make any sense why you would do something like this.
Fit.
It doesn't.
If Fetterman were not able to walk, if he had limited use of his limbs, and that were very apparent, you would likely get more empathy from individuals, and you would also hear from Fetterman's camp they probably would make a statement somewhere to the effect of, listen, we want to thank our colleagues in the Senate and the Senate Majority Leader for allowing this, because here's what my day is like. That's not what is going on here. He's not physically limited to that extent. Because if he were, we would know about it. I know there are effects after, since his stroke. Those effects have been very clear, as you mentioned yesterday, I think it was, and neither of us knew that. But in the Senate so far, he's missed more days than Dianne Feinstein.
No, second to missing.
Oh,
days.
second to Feinstein. Okay,
second to Feinstein.
And so, which I didn't even think he'd come anywhere close.
Yeah,
but because I thought maybe Manchin stayed on his boat a lot. So there's a lot of
only when he's being a maverick.
Yeah. When he's doing things that he swore he wouldn't do. Yeah. Which is every day. But those are the things that you look for. Okay, if we had seen that, a big press conference to bring empathy, right? That would be the idea. Whether it was, even if it weren't Fetterman's staffers or his family or him, the Majority Leader and other senators, picture them on a stage in front of a microphone and listen, this is important because he won the election and he is there to serve his constituents. He's there to serve his state. But this is a tremendous hardship for him every day, and we would like him to not have to worry about spending so much of that time there, but more time on the Senate floor. Even then, we would have a discussion about it
because a hoodie's harder to put on than a nice golf shirt, polo shirt.
Yes, or any button-up shirt.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you got to get your head through.
What you're again. The only conclusion my mind jumps to is, what does he have on Chuck Schumer?
Well, I saw this. I can't remember who wrote it, but it was like, why is Chuck Schumer treating Fetterman like a man-child?
Right.
Why is he treating him like a child? Because it doesn't, as we said, it's got nothing to do, with because of the results of his stroke. Otherwise, that would have been the justification.
Right.
And nobody has said that at all. Right. And so the other thing is why, and that's why the immediate criticism is, what is he, a man-child?
Right.
Does he have now what it takes to be a senator? And so, there's been, I don't know why Schumer did it. I mean, it's because this thing is just, the blowback is just huge on this, because there was no reason to do it. And then the other, as we said, because the first thing you got from Democrats was, oh, you people on the right, what does it matter as long as they're getting the job done? Well, it mattered to Schumer.
It mattered to Schumer the first couple of days, and they lost that very quickly because it flew back in the wind like a boomerang to hit him.
Right.
Because if Schumer wasn't worried about it at all, then his staffers, nobody else would have to abide by a dress code.
Right.
But everybody else does, except for, it seems, Fetterman.
Yeah.
I know the rule doesn't state that, but that's really who the rule was.
Well,
made
now
for.
with
Let's be clear.
Durbin and Manchin are admitting that's what it's about.
That's what. Yes, this is a bipartisan effort now,
and especially Durbin.
Yeah,
Durbin's been in the Senate. My God, well, the Pol Pot comment when he referred to our American soldiers at Gitmo as compared them to the mass genocidal murderer Pol Pot. It's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It is 20 years ago, probably, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah.
It's 2023.
I know.
Yeah. So that was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, new poll out. Majority of voters say Joe Biden committed a crime with Hunter Biden.
Ah.
So we'll have that.
Times they are a changing.
Well, that's one of the problems that the Democrats have. I mean, that's the part of the problem that when you had Merrick Garland out there, nobody bought it.
No, they didn't.
Nobody's buying it.
No one from his administration right now is selling anything. The Transportation Secretary, the Attorney General, none of them are able to sell this agenda.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the entire planet Earth, we are Red Eye Radio.
Uh-huh.
Here we are. We've made it to a Friday. Dress Down Slob Friday. Do any companies do it? No.
Or as we call it, Friday. We're in radio.
Well, I was going to say that, does anybody do that anymore? I'm like, well, nobody's at work.
Oh, no. Was it Wall Street Journal? Somebody had an article about it. And it wasn't because, well, it wasn't really just about Casual Friday. But they kind of started there. They said, this trend of Casual Friday then led to, hey, we're going to let everybody out early on Friday, to now people don't want to go into the office on Friday. They want to work from home. And they were kind of building to the, is it time to just go to a 4-day work week? And I thought, well, no, because then they'll treat Thursday like we treat Friday now. Nothing will change. You're just trying to start your weekend early. And they were pointing to Casual Friday really being the beginning of that. Casual Friday, well, it's okay if you wear jeans, like you do on the weekend. And then it was, well, we're going to, and there are still companies that are kind of going back and forth right now, even some of the tech companies that are going back and forth, fighting to keep talent on board. And that talent does not want to. There was another article today that I came across. I didn't get to finish it. But it was the number of people that are still quitting a job if their company is insisting they come into work in the office. And that article was interesting in correlating it with Casual Friday. And, of course, now, Fetterman, Slob Monday, Slob Tuesday, Slob Wednesday. Wouldn't it be ironic if he dressed in a full 3-piece suit at home?
I never, now, it was when I worked at the bank, and I worked at the bank when I was in college. So think about this in the 70s, and how people, going to college in the 70s, and nobody really dressed up. But the majority of days that I went to college, I was in a shirt and tie because I had to go to the bank after. Because when I worked at the bank, I was a bill collector from, it was like you worked, we were actually the main shift, because the bill collectors that are home during the day, or the bill collectors working during the day, who's home? I mean, now everybody would be home. Yeah. But back then, nobody was home. And so you were doing the bill collecting from 4 to 9 at night, and then we worked Saturdays too. We worked like a 10-hour shift on Saturdays. So and we had to wear. I don't think on Saturdays we did, but during the week, you always had to wear a shirt and tie and a sport jacket.
Yeah, sure.
I never, and in thinking, because I started that job when I was 18, I don't think anybody even thought about it. It was just, I remember thinking, in fact, having to dress up for work as a young person made me feel great.
Hmm.
When I went to college, why in a shirt and tie? I work at a bank. Well, it was
Mm-hmm.
great. I mean, you work at a bank? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Because nobody in college was working at a bank.
Right.
And to me, it was cool. It was almost a rite of passage. When I got that job, I had lost a job at a gas station. This is during the 74. What do they call it? The OPEC, gas shortage that we had at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything was full service. There was no self-service back then. Wow, how things have changed. Damn, I'm old. So I was only there for 2 weeks at the gas station, and somebody took off who was working there with $200, so they let everybody go. Everybody got let go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't get fired for cause, which was cool because they just couldn't figure out who did it. So everyone was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so my father said, put on a shirt and tie and your sport jacket, go to the bank and look for a job. My dad
And
told
you
me
had
that.
$200 to spend on that shirt and tie.
Exactly, right,
Yeah,
exactly,
so-
right.
It worked out.
And it worked out. I remember standing in line, and they're like, no. And you have to remember, at this point, when I'm in my first year of college,
Mm-hmm.
I look like I'm 5.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I look like when they hired me, people thought I was like the grandson of like the vice president of the floor who was just milling around, and they put a shirt and tie on him because I looked so young. And so there's a line of 20 people at Human Resources, the receptionist. Okay. And I'd filled out the application, everything else, and I went up and they looked and they said, "Oh, okay, you sit over there." Really? And I went in and they hired me like that. It's like, here's what I'm taking in college and here's what I'm doing, and like that. And I always thought it was special, and I realized they were looking for the odd people in society to be bill collectors.
It does take a special person.
And the group of people that I worked with, many of whom I'm still friends with, one especially who my buddy Jerry that I talk about all the time,
Mm-hmm.
who's they hired a bunch of different people. I won't say weird or even eclectic, just very independent, couldn't care what anybody thought about them. But there was a rite of passage. I felt like when I got that job at the bank, that I went from a child to a man.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt. Now, I didn't. I mean, I was still a 18-year-old kid, but, you had to do what an adult would do, which was you worked at a bank. I remember going to the cafeteria, and there's all these people, and, you're in the elevator with, these older bankers, because I worked in a 38-story building. Right. And so you're going up and down the elevator in this big bank building, and it was, but I never thought, if they would have suggested, just to show you the mentality back then, they would have ever suggested, okay, Fridays you can wear whatever you want, I probably would have said, well, no way, I want to wear the shirt and tie.
I always saw the casual Friday as a test. Let's see who cares and who doesn't, which relates to Fetterman. Let's see who is actually proud of how they look and proud of where they work and who isn't. That's exactly how I feel about this whole Fetterman thing. Go ahead. Relax the dress code. Fetterman's going to be the only one participating. because he doesn't care. I don't know that he wants the gig.
Let me ask you this: is part of it, and I look back to the way I thought I wanted to be in a shirt and tie because you viewed it as a great accomplishment, and the suit and tie, that verified in your mind that it was important. I was doing more than the average Joe in college, and my dress was the symbolism that backed the substance of what I was doing.
Right.
And now we know and maybe part of it was ego.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you want to talk about egos, talk about the Senate. Do they look at themselves and say, look, we're something special. We can't dress like slobs, whether
Right.
you're a Democrat or a Republican.
Right.
Let's go to Steve in Virginia. Steve, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, gentlemen, for having me. I swear it's been such an evolution of my thinking in the minutes that I've been on hold. First of all, I've been listening to you guys for a long, long time. It's funny you mentioned the Yellen thing. I'm like, oh, they're right. Like, isn't Yellen? And then, like, the Dick Durbin days. Wow. Life goes by fast. I never forget that they told us they were going to fundamentally transform the United States of America. And I think that was a pledge that they had that we didn't realize it would take some time to come to fruition. Everything you just expressed about the pride of having your first job, especially in the white collar world. I have like 47 dress shirts up in my closet right now that I'll never wear again because I don't have to. It used to be something to feel pride and respect in what you did and where you went, and there was like the societal norm that really was something that we could all hold on to. It was an achievement, a moment, an accomplishment.
Yeah.
When you got to the Senate, that was something big and something important. You were there representing your constituents, on the grand national scale. They've eroded all of it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's down to the point where, they want us to not respect any of our institutions. Just like close your eyes for a minute and think about like the bizarro world that we live in. Okay. We literally have, a senator who had a stroke. Okay. And talk about honor. That would have been a moment you backed out. Okay. That would have been a moment you walked away. You said, I'm no longer fit to, deliver the duty that you're entrusting me to. But we are in a world where we have Fetterman not just wanting to wear sweatshirts and, basketball shorts. Okay. The guy can't complete sentences. Okay. Look at Joe Biden. It used to be when you reach a certain age and you realize you were piecing out, you took the gracious route. You walked away. We've got puppets, in place because of the sheer grip on power that they want. And then we also have like this throwaway of all the things that used to be fundamentally American, the familial side of things, a belief in a common good, in a belief in our ability to strive and go and do things that we can all accomplish anything we set our minds to. Now it's all victimhood. It's all the minority is the majority. And it's insanity, man. I've lost my train of thought here because the whole
You've just wrapped up our shows for the last couple of decades.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you're right. You're right on,
much,
Steve.
right?
Yeah, you're right on, Steve. And Gary and I have talked about how in radio, especially in the middle of the night, there's four of us in the building, our production staff and us, and for years I've kept it very simple. I have an entire closet filled with black T-shirts. But here's the thing: when they start to show anywhere at all, they're out. I put them in the trash. They're gone, and I get brand new ones. And the other day, it had hit me because my wife and I will hang out on the weekend, and sometimes we'll go to dinner. We'll have a date night and everything. And I've been wearing these black T-shirts, but if we go to a dinner, I want to have something more to wear. I want to put on, a button-down shirt, a dress shirt.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
dress it up a little bit.
Just 2 days ago, I ordered 6 brand new dress shirts because I said, you know what, we're gonna make sure we look nice going out. My wife's stepdad passed away earlier this year, and thank you for the call. And every time he went to dinner, I didn't care. It didn't matter. Chick-fil-A or a steakhouse, suit and tie, every time. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not wearing a tie unless it actually called for it. I do have my low standards, my low bar. But I mean, I had told my wife, I said, it's easy enough to because I don't, when I'm getting ready to come in, I've been getting dressed in the dark for 27 years almost. And it just makes it easy. You grab a T-shirt, and it's not about that at all. It's not about how you look. Although you and I did when right before they canceled us on C-SPAN, season 1, episode 1, we wore jackets.
Yeah, we
did.
Yeah.
And this is
right. And if anything, anything you have to do during the day, if it's a sales oriented thing or when I used to work days, it would probably be during the busy season. 3 speeches, lunches a week. You're always, wearing a sport coat and tie. The interesting thing is, though, I went from that in college to after college being in, radio for a year and then getting out and then couldn't find anything and end up doing what my family did. And that's when I talk about where, I was because we had talked, unions and the UAW. I was a machinist and, was a United Steel worker and then or First International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers and then a United Steel worker for 2 different companies. And there was also pride in dressing down for that particular job since I had dressed up for such a long time. And so I never felt as if it was I never felt it.
Well, no, it's what the job called for.
Yeah, I never felt it was demeaning. There was pride of, okay, now I'm everybody works for a living. I mean, it's like people will say, well, you guys just do talk radio. You don't work for a living. Yeah, you do. Everybody works. There isn't, the billionaires. If you look,
I'm not digging ditches. It may not be the physical manual
may not be the
labor,
physical, but it's everything is. If you accomplish anything in life, it's work. And
you have to put the work in.
What it taught me is I respect all work. From starting cleaning toilets. I mean, my first job. Yeah. I respect all work.
Right.
I never look at I never have looked at anybody and go, what a demeaning job he has to work.
Right.
If you're working and making an honest buck, God bless you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're doing what you need to survive, and you're doing it the right way, and you should be complimented for doing things the right way.
And in the proper setting, do you take pride, including in how you look? That's what people are looking at. This is what the Democrats now in the Senate are talking about. They're embarrassed by this. It's very clear. Fetterman to them is an embarrassment, and rightly so.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This owner-operator driver report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. Shell Rotella with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Most owner-operators leased to larger carriers are paid on a per-mile basis or a percentage of revenue per load. The per-mile basis is most prevalent among larger fleets, percentage at smaller. Pay per mile tends to dominate discussions about pay just because it's easier to measure, and pay per mile often is wrongly used as the deciding factor in leasing to a carrier. While pay per mile can be a vital factor, it's not a cure for every ill, nor does it mean a big settlement check is coming an owner-operator's way. Why? Because pay per mile always must be considered in balance with gross revenue as well as total costs. Gross revenue can include flat mileage pay that varies by length of haul, percentage revenue pay, and more. Most importantly, though, for every revenue dollar generated, only part of that dollar is profit. But for every extra dollar of cost saved, the entire dollar contributes to profit. Knowing and understanding your cost to operate is fundamental to understanding the true value of any pay package.
This report is brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Friday Night Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Okay, new polling out. And this is the problem the Democrats have. It's a problem that Merrick Garland has. It's a problem that Joe Biden has. It's a problem that the Democrats in general has. It's a problem that the media has because if you look at the way that they've covered, the entire Biden dilemma, scandal, whatever, it's as if we're going to hide this and then, nobody really knows what's going on. But the fact is they haven't been able to hide it from the public. We'll get to what the polls say next. Anybody carry this?
Okay.
And I just saw it
right.
just before we got on. Just seconds before we get on the air. I haven't even read the full story yet. But I just went, whoa, whoa. Here's the headline. Ready?
All right.
Lynn Wood will testify for the prosecution in Georgia election case against Sidney Powell.
There's so much going on in what you just said.
I know.
That's a lot to unpack. But hold on. Wait a minute. Weren't there allegations after the fallout about Lynn Wood and whether he was truly a conservative? Or people were on social media were questioning, where he stood. Was he really a Trump backer? And I can't tell you, but I just remember that part of it on social media. There were a lot of people scrutinizing Lynn Wood. But when all of this came down, you saw, wow. Now, I guess my question would be, what do they have on Lynn Wood?
Well, let me throw this at you here because the story, Lynn Wood is cooperating with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. This is from Breitbart. And will testify for the prosecution in the state's case against Sidney Powell, the DA's office revealed in a Wednesday filing. L. Lynn Wood is a witness for the state in the present case. Sidney Catherine Powell and Kathleen Latham are defendants in this case. Now, Wood, after that came out, released a statement saying there's no truth to accusations that he flipped on former President Donald Trump by agreeing to testify for the prosecution. He said, I have no idea why I'm being asked to testify at the trial. I've had no discussions with the DA's office since I testified before the special grand jury several months ago. It strikes me as yet another effort by the fake media to attack or smear me. Fake news is fake news, always has been, always will be. Enjoy your afternoon. God bless you. Well, we all know that when Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell were talking about Smartmatic and Dominion, they were lying.
Right.
We know that without question. That's why, and we know Sidney Powell, that's why Sidney Powell, that's why the Trump campaign booted her off right after Thanksgiving of 2020. I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out the years here. Wow.
Okay, so...
But he confirmed he will be a state's witness hours after publication of our story.
Well, then
this morning, Attorney Lynn Wood confirmed he will be a state's witness after receiving a subpoena to testify in Sidney Powell's case, but he denies that means he flipped on Trump.
Well, I would say it doesn't necessarily mean that he flipped on Trump, and I would see why you would want to get that out there, but it clearly stems from his grand jury testimony. And that's what it tells me, is that, all right, prosecution believes there is something to gain for them. I mean, they wouldn't.
Right, but here's the case, as Joel Pollack from Breitbart put. The indictment does not mention Lynn Wood, who was a major proponent of the voter fraud claims. Wood, who recently gave up his law license in Georgia,
okay.
was called to testify before the Fulton County grand jury last year.
Right.
He was probably the biggest advocate for the idea that there had been voter fraud in Georgia to the point of encouraging Republican voters to boycott the Senate runoff elections in the state in January 2021 in protest. Curiously, his name is absent from the indictment, and that's how they're getting to the point that he has flipped.
That there has to be an agreement somewhere.
There has to be an agreement somewhere because otherwise he would be indicted. Because remember, you got to the point where it was right around Thanksgiving. I think it was a couple days after Thanksgiving. I believe it was Thanksgiving Saturday. I believe it was. Maybe it was a Saturday before. I can't remember. Where, the Trump campaign said Sidney Powell's no longer associated, with us at all.
She had to write a letter, and Giuliani wrote a letter from the campaign's side saying the same thing. That she was never officially part of the attorney team for Trump. Well, okay,
and so I think that's where it's coming out.
Well,
because the question would be because after Sidney Powell was out of it, Lin Wood was pounding on the special election, which was still a few weeks away, wasn't it? Was that special election in early December?
Yeah. Yeah, it was December 6th, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I keep thinking it was December.
Yeah.
At that point, is that how they're coming to the point that, wait a minute, he hasn't been indicted? They had a better case on him than Sidney Powell. I'm not. By the way, I'm not.
Well,
I'm not stating that as a statement of fact. It's a question as to is the people that are implying that he is flipping. This is why.
Yeah.
And I'm not making it a statement of fact. I just saw it interesting when I saw the story going, okay, well, where do they come to that point? Because he was probably the biggest advocate for a stolen election, even over Sidney Powell. I mean, that was the point. So why aren't they going after him? And all of a sudden he comes up as a witness for the prosecution.
What was the timeline of any official association with the Trump camp? And is that why they can't get him on anything? I mean, I'm just throwing out questions.
No. It's a decent.
If prosecution believes they don't have anything on him, they're calling him a state's witness, which sounds like it's based on his grand jury testimony. That they're going to just have him tell, the story that he told, essentially in that testimony. They want that for the impact of reading from a transcript of a grand jury testimony is very different than having somebody right there in front of you.
Well, he lost his law license in Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
and I mean, so there definitely there might not have been legal consequences at that point,
and maybe that's the reason prosecution can't bring anything on him.
Let me see here. Trying to think. It says while litigating on Trump's behalf.
Mm-hmm. And
while litigating on Trump's behalf, this is, let me see, Wood also claimed, let me make sure I get the source here for this, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, December 18, 2020. While litigating on Trump's behalf, he falsely asserted to the media and the court that more votes were cast in Michigan during the 2020 presidential election than the entire population of eligible voters in the state, a conclusion he drew from a mistaken comparison of the Michigan vote total with the Minnesota population data. Now, that's not important. That legally, the part where while litigating on Trump's behalf, which means at that point he was a lawyer for Trump still.
Well, and he was doing this in court, not
Yes.
not on the steps outside the courthouse. Huh. I could see why everybody is trying to basically assert that it seems he's flipped because there's nothing coming at him in terms of charges from prosecution, and now he's the state's witness.
Unless he's the state is going to use him as a witness to show the mindset of Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell, who work together.
Well, if there are things, and this is why I think it has to be, and this is the logical correlation here, that it's based on things he said during his testimony for the grand jury. And you're just going to demonstrate that, because they're calling him doesn't mean he's in favor of the prosecution.
But remember, I mean, when you go back and you remember some of the things that he did, remember on X, I'm sorry, it was Twitter at the time, he implied that Chief Justice John Roberts was involved in the death of Scalia. He suggested that Roberts was a child trafficker. And so my point was, if they're going after, we always said that the biggest, there were, and there still are, totally legit things to be concerned about in our election system, without question.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked about it. Where they screwed themselves was going after Smartmatic, or going after Dominion and Smartmatic.
Those were very direct and specific allegations.
That was the fatal thing that the lawyers for Trump did when they went after Dominion and Smartmatic.
Even if they wanted to go after them and position it this way, we would like for these software companies to be compelled to disclose methodology after the election, methodology, and also results and any anomalies and all of those, so that we can look into it. We can investigate if the software was working as it should have been. If you're talking about that, you're not making a direct allegation. You're kind of pointing in that direction, but you don't have that. You're not. It's not the same liability because you're just you're not making a claim directly as they did, and they did it repeatedly.
I would think, though, that if they were using Wood to show them what they believe is the mindset of Sidney Powell, that Sidney Powell's attorneys would vehemently want that testimony to be striked by saying that, look, Wood is a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can't get in unless he's going to say all these things that I thought she thought too.
Well, yeah, because you probably can't. That's not going to. They could object to that, and likely that would not stand. So
because otherwise,
you'll say at any point, did she say to you? Did she convey any thought that was different than what she was saying in public or in court?
Well, the thing is, I mean, I've always been. I know this is changing the topic a little bit, but this is something I've never got an answer to, and I probably never will. But the support of Trump supporters to Tucker Carlson, who absolutely was blistering that Trump was out of his mind with everything. I mean, that was coming. That's not me saying it. That Tucker Carlson, that was the testimony for the lawsuit against Dominion. And he said, well, I was really angry and emotional at that point. And it seems like the majority of Trump supporters, because when he got fired from Fox, went, this is abysmal. Well, he said the guy that you support was completely out of his mind. He said it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, we love Tucker Carlson. It's like, I've never been able to, in my mind, figure out what connects the logical dots of that one to a Trump supporter to support of Tucker Carlson after all that information came out. Because you and I both said, well, okay, if Fox ends up firing him, the Trump supporters aren't going to care. And it was huge from Trump supporters when he got let go from Fox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he
and
was.
You look at the interview.
The
interview that he did with Trump on X got like 9 trillion views.
Yeah. Everybody's like, Tucker Carlson, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he is the one that was really the most, when you go back and look at those emails and text, he was the most vicious against Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, didn't matter.
Right. Well, no, I mean, he comes out and he says, heat of the moment, it was the heat of the moment, and blah, blah, blah. I was angry, and blah, blah, blah. And I guess all is forgiven.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. All right, with Merrick Garland this week, he was supposed to be testifying, but he really didn't testify. We learned nothing.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't really answer any questions. One of the problems that Joe Biden has, Hunter Biden has, the rest of the Biden family has, the media.
Anyone named Biden?
Yeah, the media, the Democrats, everything else is, even though they've done everything they can to not report or to slow walk everything concerning Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, the public knows what's going on. How do we know? A couple of polls. We'll go to the first one here. 57% of voters believe Hunter Biden should be indicted for influence peddling. Only 14% say he should not. I want to see the breakdown for Democrats there. Although Special Counsel David Weiss brought 3 gun-related charges against Hunter last week, a majority of voters say Hunter Biden should be indicted on additional charges. That means the tax charges. And look, we told you from the very, very beginning, there's 2 things. We can be partisan about almost anything. There's one thing that still cuts through partisanship.
Mm-hmm.
To a degree. I won't say cuts through fully, but to a degree. 1 is evading and not paying your taxes. 2, influence peddling / bribes of a politician.
Mm-hmm.
The poll asked voters, federal prosecutors are also reportedly investigating Hunter Biden's foreign business deals, which have drawn accusations of influence peddling. Do you think Hunter Biden should be indicted for such deals? 57% of independents, 87% of Republicans, 29% of Democrats think Hunter Biden should be indicted for influence peddling. Only 15% of voters are unsure, or 14%. Yeah, 14, 15, including 34% of independents, 10% of Republicans, 45% of Democrats. Getting to that same poll, that was the YouGov poll. The YouGov poll. Now, the majority of voters in that Yahoo YouGov poll believe that President Joe Biden committed a crime with Hunter Biden. While Republicans have long accused Biden and his family of running a very organized crime ring, a majority of voters, 51%, believe Joe Biden committed a crime with Hunter Biden. 36% say he did not. 54% of independent voters say Joe Biden committed a crime. Only 24% say he did not. That's a 30-point margin of independence. A plurality, 46 to 34, say Joe Biden made money from the family business. 20% are undecided. %74 believe Hunter Biden committed a crime. Only 9% said he did not commit a crime. Remember, the vast majority of the coverage so far, it's only been a couple of really a couple of months where, probably 4 or 5 months where really the focus has been on Joe Biden.
Yeah.
When you think about it. Because it was when Republicans got in, but it was really about 4 months ago when they started, coming up with, and explaining to the public actually what was going on.
Right. Yeah.
But for the Hunter Biden, it's a slam dunk. Comer was on Fox News on Wednesday and said, we believe that this was a very organized crime ring because of the way the money was dispersed to the LLCs and the shell companies and the way the money was dispersed to various Biden members. A majority, 50% of voters believe Joe Biden and his family are corrupt. Only 39%, that's why it's a majority, only 39% of voters claim they are not corrupt. Let me ask you this. Do the majority of voters know about the LLCs and the bank accounts?
Well, this is...
Because I would ask the question...
For those who, one of the other categories, do you believe he committed a crime? And, a certain number believes he didn't commit a crime. And I thought, well, how can you say that, or are you saying he didn't, or are you just not paying attention? I'm not saying I have evidence of a crime. All I'm saying is, how do you come to the conclusion he didn't commit a crime? That's how it was phrased in the poll results.
Well, because they look at it here, among those who say the Biden family is not corrupt, 69% of Democratic voters, only 24% of independent voters. Inversely, 56% of independents say the Biden family is corrupt, along with 12% of Democrats, only 12%. One of the differences between being being in the arena of ideas today versus being in the arena of ideas maybe 30 years ago, Democrats used to tell you what they think. You really don't know what they think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because none of them, no Democrat.
That's a really good point.
No Democrat. Yeah. Think about this. No, and you saw it, whether it's Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday, whether it's Merrick Garland, nobody will answer a question.
Yeah.
Because that's and I think really the rank and file Democrats the same way.
While the whole time they're telling you they're answering the question when they're not.
No, right. But I mean the voter. When you talk about the actual voter, when was the last time anybody had a discussion and said, and said to a Democratic voter just to see, well, no, I don't believe it's corrupt. Well, what do you think the money was coming from then? I mean, what do you view as corruption, number one, would be a question I would have. And what do you think about the fact that, well, here's the thing. The people that pay attention and say, we know Hunter Biden made millions. We know they took those millions and filtered them through bank accounts and different corporations that were only set up to transfer money. Now, any American knows, we're smart enough to know. Americans know, okay, if you're setting up a false corporation just to put money through, there is no legit money-making reason, and this kind of money is going through. Most Americans believe that's corrupt. If only 12% of Democrats believe the Biden family is corrupt, do the rest not know that these bank accounts existed?
Right,
Do they not know that the media even has acknowledged that there as it was the illusion of access to the president. Because as we've stated, okay, by saying it was illusion of access, what you're saying is Hunter Biden was taking money from corrupt people around the world, telling them that he was going to get his father to do something. His father didn't know about it, but Hunter Biden took all of that money and gave it to all different family members through bank accounts and corporations that were set up that the banks recognized immediately and viewed that as possible money laundering. And so it enriched the entire Biden family. So the entire Biden family, if you ask that to a Democrat, how would they respond? Would they say, okay, the entire Biden family is corrupt except for Joe, and Joe knew nothing? Because you can't make that case anymore. Or are Democrats just, as Maureen Dowd said, when the news gets negative, they just turn it off so they actually don't know?
Well, that's the question. The question is, how much have they truly, been exposed to? How many are willfully ignorant about this? I don't want to pay attention. I don't want to look into it. This is just a right-wing Republican scam. Right. Who said that the other day? It was, Juan, what's his name? That's Fox News. He wrote this.
Oh, Juan Williams.
Yeah, Juan Williams. He said, what was the title of his piece? Something, this whole thing is the impeachment inquiry is, I couldn't remember which part of it. The impeachment inquiry is a sham. No, it's a process. It's a process, and maybe this is why the Republicans are like, okay, we really don't have anywhere else to go here. And in order to fully demonstrate everything that we know now and also want to prove going forward, this is the only process that will allow us to do that properly and fully. And you look at that, and my question would be, too, I think we'll find out how many are being willfully ignorant or just aren't being honest about it. Well, because they don't want to disfavor Joe Biden. But the fact of the matter is, you can demonstrate things we've been saying from the beginning. Once you can demonstrate and fully, without question, demonstrate the flow of money, it's all over. It's all over. And it appears, look, blame it on Hunter for leaving his laptop at a store. But it goes back to Obama. Never underestimate the ability of Joe Biden to F things up. Even when he's trying to, get away with something, he doesn't care. And why would he not care? Well, if you're that arrogant and defiant, you think you'll never be caught. And if you're caught, no one can do anything about it. Well, the fact of the matter is that politically, if this happens, it's going to come down on the entire party. There's no way that it's not. And the reason we say that is because this has been talked about for years. There were concerns going back to when Joe Biden was vice president. And I believe that would be a very good reason as to why he was not the nominee in 2016.
I guess, looking just at the voter now, not the media, whatever. And I think it's a legit question that, and I think it's a legit observation that Democrat voters don't talk anymore.
Yeah.
The Democrat, I'm not talking about, the activist on social media, but just Democrats. I know that all the Democrat acquaintances and even friends that I've had for the last 10 years, and I've talked about this many times, and I say the last 10 years because social media has come to the forefront in the last 10 years. When Obama was president, they were tweeting constantly. Yeah. Never stop, defending,
right.
defending. And this was way before the whole Elon Musk thing. They disappeared. The activists didn't, but they disappeared completely. And the majority of people that I'm talking about actually weren't on Twitter. They were on Facebook back then. Mm-hmm. And they were active, and they've all gone completely quiet. And so I'm always, it's always interesting, for example, how many Democratic voters, before they do the polls, they should ask, have you been following what's been going on? What do you think? When you hear that the Biden family set up fake corporations that money went through to 9 different Biden family members, do you view that as corrupt, or is there a legitimate reason for it? Because how many Democrats know it?
Right.
Because if you confront them on that fact, then they sound like, okay, we know, then they're not willfully ignorant. It's just you're putting the evidence before them, and they're saying, well, to hell with it. We don't care whether they're corrupt.
Yeah,
and there's a difference.
Right.
It's like, how many Democrats actually know that on the whole Russia collusion thing that went on for over 3 years, that Hillary Clinton set up Donald Trump? How many Democrats actually know that?
Yeah,
and I don't have the question because they won't address it. They won't defend Hillary. None of them are defending Biden. I'm talking about the voters. They're not coming out and defending. You have the activists doing it, and they look like idiots when they do because you can hit them on every single point.
Yeah.
But the actual rank and file Democrat, have they taken the have they taken I think the lead that they got from Biden in the 2020 campaign, and are they all hiding just in their basements? And I mean, mentally, are they just hiding? Do they refuse to listen to anything? Is this what Maureen Dowd said, that when her liberal friends hear anything that is negative, they just turn off the media completely, and they really don't know what's going on at all. And if you ask them a question, they'll simply, give the response, no, it's the Republicans, the Democrats are fine.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty curious about this. I guess, I wonder what this poll will look like a few weeks into the impeachment inquiry.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Now, with independence, when you see that, when you see the difference there, and we're talking 30 to 35 point differences from the people that believe, the independents that believe the Biden family and Joe Biden and Hunter Biden is corrupt versus those that don't. And with the impeachment inquiry coming up, as we have said, this is where Republicans are going to try to give you the flow chart, where you get the flow chart every day, and you get the flow chart. The flow chart will exist because they'll put one together. And as we have said before, the problem that they have here is all the information and all the evidence is not coming from Republicans. It's coming from Hunter's laptop. It's coming from the associates of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden in the businesses that Hunter was involved in, and it's coming from bank records, from the Treasury Department, from the banks that were put out suspicious activity reports because they feared money laundering or other type of white-collar irregularities were going on. That's the problem that the Bidens have.
Willful ignorance for some can stand forever. But on massive, massive things, the noise is overbearing at some point if it's, in this case, done right. And that's what you're hoping to do, is demonstrate very clearly. And keep in mind, the majority of the rank-and-file Democrats don't care, in fact, prefer Biden not to run again. Now, those same Democrats, if they were to have to take into consideration what this might do to the party, if you prove that he is compromised as a sitting president, those people may have and should have a much greater concern for their party overall, because there will be other fallout. But there will be, if the Republicans can demonstrate it, and there's no reason to believe at this point that they won't be able to do that. The question will be, is it loud enough to get in the face of the willfully ignorant?
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our app today and our Red Eye Radio app and listen when and where you want.
And thank you.
Dad, now Dad's 97. I'm going to see him later on today. And he asked me yesterday, he said, so you still do that red eye thing? And I went, oh, no. You know, because you always, when your father's 97 years old, you're always wondering about his cognitive state. And it wasn't that. He was just saying, is the show still called Red Eye? That's all he was asking. I'm like,
right.
Yeah, yes, we're Red Eye. I said, oh. It was so funny. He's like, and I said, oh, so you're not asking if I still do the show? And he goes, I just wondered if that's still the name. I go, yeah, that's still the name.
Good. For now, it is. And it's been, I was going to say, I was thinking earlier coming in, it'll be 12 years in January that we've been doing Red Eye.
Red Eye, yeah. You and I have been together
18 years.
18 years.
Months?
18 years, a few months.
Wow. Yeah. And 12 of that, almost, doing Red Eye.
Uh-huh.
Crazy.
Crazy. Can I do another 12, you think?
I think so. What's weird is that, you think about, you're supposed to be thinking about planning for retirement. And I don't mean, well, I'm getting ready to retire. It's just that you're always kind of in that stage, and my wife and I are always talking about things and, in that arena. And, but when we do, there's this voice in my head screaming, one of the many voices in my head. But no, but I don't want. It's because I feel like I would be dragged away from, doing what we do. And I can't imagine not wanting to do it, or wanting to retire full time and just having to make that decision. Okay, it's it's time to move on.
And I'm
now
10,
there will be a time,
and I'm 10 years older than you.
Mm-hmm. You are,
but that thought and my normal retirement age was. Let me see. That would have been 66 years and 2 months, right? Yeah, that's what it was. So almost 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. My goal was 59 and a half, and that would be almost 2 years from now.
And whenever I talk,
I had that, in my mind for many years, saying, okay, this is going to be my goal. And I've reached goals in other ways, but then it's like, but no, that voice in my head, but, and I think that's what it comes down to. You talk about your dad. My dad is 90, and we always have it inevitably turns into a talk show. And if there are other people, if my siblings and others are at their house with me, you realize they're kind of putting up with it. Everybody's looking at their phone and everything. And Dad and I are just talking current events like a talk show. And, and everybody else is like, and it's, my dad, your dad is an engineer. He's got an engineer's mind. My dad is an investigator, and he's got an investigator's mind. It's, so these are two people that are very similar in that their minds are very curious about how things work or how things happened. And, I get that from my father. I'm also, having learned, some basic things as a layman, just the basics of engineering, kind of the same thing there, too, about how things work, and also from, being the son of a lifelong military police officer and someone who taught law enforcement and criminal investigation, I inherited that curiosity about how things happened. And when anything goes down, just ask my children or grandchildren. and those are, to me, I read something not too long ago. It was a couple of weeks ago. It was actually while we were on vacation. And it was one of these articles that seemed like one I was going to giggle at. 10 things you can do, that will kind of help keep your mind going as you age, right? And one of them was crochet. What? And I thought, okay. Don't give me large needles ever. That's just because it wouldn't be safe for others. But what it also was about reading. It was also about having conversations with other people, basically engaging the mind. But I would add to it, be curious about things. Start your day, get a little exercise, get up, get the blood going if you're able. And then from there, engage in certain things. Now, my mom will sit in front of Fox News, and you can't say a word if they're on, if anybody's on the air, if it's not a commercial break. And so she kind of engages that way, and then she comes to me with 100 questions about why things happened or why they're saying this about so and so. And you think about how the brain works as we age. There are things that you learn that just become, because you've been through it so often. It can be the 30,000 hour thing, doing something for 30,000 hours, whether it's something that you practice or a career, but it's also the 30,000 hours of life, that once you've been around long enough, you're going to know some things. And I always look at it as, well, yeah, but I need to learn more. I didn't go to college. I started radio right out of high school. And I don't miss going to college. But I'm always curious to learn. And that could have changed things when I was 18, maybe. I don't know. But I know that I'm always I'm always curious. I'm always wanting to learn. And I just don't see a time when that won't be the case,
Yeah.
God willing, as long as, my mind is right.
That's the same thing for me and being the elder statesman of
Hey, you're
Red
the
Eye.
only one that wears shorts in this studio.
Of Red Eye by
Mr. Fetterman.
As the Fetterman statesman of of Red Eye, being 10 years older and being that I've passed my normal retirement age, whenever I say this, people say, "You don't thinking of retiring."
Mm-hmm.
That thought entered my mind when I was around 50.
Yeah.
And the thought was, wow, when I get to be 65 or whatever the retirement age was for me was 66 in 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, okay, it's going to be great because I'm going to golf every day. And then, during the wintertime, I'll go up and visit my family and I'll spend January skiing every day.
Yeah.
I
Right.
can't do that.
Right.
I can't golf every day, and I can't.
Well,
now I can.
yeah.
I can work out every day, but I work out every day so I can golf. but it's like, I can't do it. But I know that there's one thing that would make me retire,
Mm-hmm.
and that is if I lose the when I know that my brain is slowing down, because one thing, and I'm sure it's the 30,000 hour thing that David Lee Roth, as he stated one time that, why can you do something every day and it's used to be a lot of work and it's no longer work because of the repetition. You've done it so many times,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not enough for me just to read.
Mm-hmm.
I have to organize it and blurt it out. And the one thing that would make me retire is if I felt that I lost that little, and it might come across as like the Jim Jordan manic part of me where you've got so many thoughts going through your head and you're blurting them out. You don't do it all the time, but you're thinking so quickly and your mind is processing those thoughts. And there's a great high that comes with that, because when you're done, you're like, I just articulated all that. That's really cool. It's not an ego thing like I'm great. It was like, how did I do it? It's more a wonder, how did I do that? Because I couldn't do that 20 years ago. And so it becomes addicting. And to me, it's almost like I'm a long-term addict of talk radio. And there's just, I'm not giving up this addiction. And so the only thing that would make me do it is if the addiction was not pleasurable anymore.
Well, and that's what it comes down to is also the practice. I was watching an interview with Sting recently, and he talked about practice. He said, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. You have to keep practicing. And someone else wrote the same thing. If you stop doing it, then that skill and also the enjoyment from it, because there is a chemical in the brain from accomplishing something, and and that's kind of the physical feedback that we get, but it drives us to learn more and want to accomplish more quite often. And that's the idea, is that you want to, okay, but I'm learning something new. I'm doing something new. I'm doing something that up until now, it didn't have the same level of satisfaction or return. And those are the things that I look at in life, from playing guitar or doing a project on a house. And someone said it the other day, well, you should do the project yourself. You should do these things, not talking to me, just generally talking to people online. You should, you might say, well, I don't know how to do it. Well, you don't. Nobody does until you do. Mm-hmm. So you learn it. And, yeah, you'll make some mistakes. Try not to make mistakes. This is what I love about YouTube, by the way. People that made mistakes can give you a video, do a video, and tell you how not to make the mistakes. And I've used it, but those are the things that that you want. For me, they're important that we keep learning, because I don't want to be, Jim Jordan at the fast food restaurant, retired, nothing else to do, and ma'am, I only have 5 minutes of time, and I just want to ask you one question. I ordered that burger with no onions. Now it has onions on it, does it not? I don't want to. That's not what I want to be.
No.
I do want to have that satisfaction of being able to have the conversations, but also really get the enjoyment from learning something along the way.
And the thing is, I always wanted to be in radio or some form of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about, and I didn't know it at the time because I never wanted to do talk radio. The thing about talk radio is it's completely different. Stand-up comedy, you write material.
Mm-hmm.
Here you've got to organize everything that happens in your, every day in the news, and then articulate it, have fun, do everything else. But it all comes out ad lib. It is ad lib.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is, there's a basic outline of the topics of the day. But to me, that's better than stand-up comedy could ever be. You may not have the immediate crowd reaction, but what you're actually doing, to me, is just, for me, is extremely enjoyable.
It's not necessarily a formula.
Right.
And even stand-up has to be formula. When you're on stage, you have to follow that formula, including the timing, or it just doesn't work.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, they didn't solve the writer strike, did they? Yeah.
No.
So we'll get to that.
No, they did not.
The vice president says young people aren't buying homes due to climate change.
No. I think she's onto something.
Go ahead.
Because of the cost of government associated
okay.
with the climate change agenda.
Yep.
Nobody can afford a home right now.
Inflation, interest rates. You can look and say that the trillions of dollars that we're borrowing to put in to subsidize businesses that can't make a profit has helped to cause the inflation, which makes it harder to buy a home.
So indirectly, she's correct. I don't think she meant it that way.
This is Red Eye Radio on West. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, he is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, so 2 days ago, Pete Buttigieg went before the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee, and EVs were part of the discussion. And it really got interesting. We played one audio cut yesterday. This sort of got lost in the news mix yesterday because of the Merrick Garland testimony.
Right. Yeah.
But here it is. This is Representative Scott Perry and Pete Buttigieg on electric vehicles.
Thanks for listening to our questions. I want to pick up where we left off in July of 2022 regarding what I view as the administration's anti-market policies in regard to EVs. They are expensive. The grid is not, we're building a second grid I guess, on top of the grid we already have, which is a huge cost, and people are paying for that in their electric bills. The batteries have limited range, and despite the subsidization, the market is literally not adopting EVs, regardless of what we want to believe or what you want to say. There's significant inflationary pressures and a glut of electric vehicles, well beyond demand. And so if we consider the current UAW strike, the cost of living has eaten away at these folks' ability to pay their grocery bill and their gas bill. So they're obviously and righteously and rightfully upset. And the administration's subsidization of the electric vehicles is killing their jobs. They know this. On the second point related to EVs, I think it's important to quote the UAW president, Shawn Fain, directly, and I quote, "Not only is the federal government not using its power to turn the tide, they're actively funding a race to the bottom with billions in public money."
Okay, just want to stop it there because a few points he made. Somebody's making that point that we've been making all along.
Yep.
I will say this because I watched a number of the back and forths between members of, Republican members and Buttigieg, and they hit almost every single point they should have hit.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it yesterday because, look, you and I have criticized Republicans at times for not communicating effectively. They did here.
Yeah.
They did.
They did.
Let's play more of it. Here we go.
Unquote. Now, you've recently moved to Michigan, I understand it, and I just wonder what you have to say to Michiganders who feel the federal government is using their very tax dollars to destroy their industry and their jobs.
Well, one of two things is going to happen, Representative. Either the EV revolution is going to be made in China or it's going to be made in America.
But right now it's destroying their jobs.
Is that we are working to make sure that it's made in
and
America.
it's being subsidized, which is destroying their jobs. So is your position that we're going to lose all these jobs? That's what has to happen, or China's going to build all these vehicles. Is that the position?
One of the reasons we've seen manufacturing jobs grow so much in this administration compared to the manufacturing recession under the last administration is that we're investing in American manufacturing.
You're investing with our money in things that we don't want. You realize that forcing car companies to make these vehicles at a loss, about $60,000 per vehicle sold, is damaging to the UAW's jobs. In fact, I'm going to just look at Ford. I hate to call them out, but their electric vehicle unit is expected to lose $4.5 billion this year, which is up from $2.1 billion in losses last year. There's a 92-day supply of electric vehicles, which is twice that of the current average of the internal combustion or traditional car. And I would just remind everybody that electric vehicles were one of the first vehicles on the market back in the early 1900s, but they were replaced by better technology then. Now, the average new vehicle transaction price is about, I don't know, I just heard one of my colleagues, $50,000. I got $48,763, which is up $10,000 since your boss became the president, and the average used vehicle price is $26,510. Mr. Secretary, the people I work for, my bosses, can't afford what you're forcing on them. These are not market forces. This is the government funding the destruction of our own automotive industry. And I hope you know that approximately 2/3 of EV owners make over $100,000 a year. My bosses don't make that. I don't know if you can justify or how you justify forcing my constituents to pay for EVs and EV infrastructure for coastal elites and wealthy people, but somehow you do.
Well, I need to point out that wealthy people were specifically excluded from the Inflation Reduction Act.
Well, I just gave you the number. Do you dispute that 2/3 of EV owners are owned by people over 100,000 that make over 100,000? Do you dispute that?
Yeah, the first EVs, of course, were.
Do you dispute that?
No, but that number's going down.
Those are the facts. It doesn't matter if they're going down now.
Why were you
the folks
against
that
cutting
I
the price of
represent
EVs?
can't afford them today, sir.
Why were you against cutting their costs?
All these factors. I'm not against cutting their costs. The market should do it. But you want the government, you want my taxpayers to pay to cut the cost, which isn't cutting the cost.
If you were of the view,
subsidizing
respectfully,
the cost.
Congressman,
Sir,
if you were of
with
the
all
view
these
that there
factors
should be no
combined,
subsidy to propulsion
all these
vehicles, then are
factors
you against
combined,
oil and gas?
So there you go.
Yep.
That because that's where it ended up. But the big lie, and Representative Perry caught it. The cost of electric vehicles is not going down.
No, it's not.
Tell me what in the automobile industry is going down in price. I mean,
Right.
that's the biggest. I would have stopped him right there and go, because I would have said, you stop for a second, you're lying.
Yeah, you're asking
The cost-
taxpayers
Right.
to pay part of
the
it.
overall cost of electric vehicles is not going down. They are going up, and you want to take taxpayer dollars from people that can't afford to buy an electric car and give it to people, the very few people out there that wish to buy an electric vehicle,
Right.
but only if it's subsidized by tax dollars.
Yeah.
He still made the point, but somebody has to. That's the biggest lie. It's coming down in price. And he was saying that during the entire thing, and I don't think he wasn't challenged, at least I don't think, in passion and tone enough by Republicans on that one, because the audio cut we played yesterday, he was saying the same thing, where they're coming down in price, and they're going to come down in price. And we addressed that yesterday. We said, well, look, you've got TVs and, other things that come down in price, but a lot of the highly technical things don't come down in price. But smartphones haven't come down in price.
No.
They've gone way, way up in price. Now, they deliver a lot more for you, and they make your life more efficient, but the marketplace determined that I was willing to pay more to get this, because this does 20 things for me, which actually, if you take what the smartphone replaced, as we actually talked about earlier in the show, from what I used to get, I'm actually saving money.
Yeah.
When you think of everything that it has replaced in my life, and the efficiency and productivity that it gives to you. But I think Scott Perry overall did I think a real good job.
Well, and he did, and I think too, you have to look at, again, the dynamics of it are that the Secretary of Transportation here is, as part of the administration, part of the government forcing this. And one question I would have that I haven't heard anybody ask someone like a Pete Buttigieg or a Biden, and that is, what are you guys going to do when no one's buying these? What are you doing now about the dealerships who have stopped ordering them because nobody's showing up? Demand only gets to a certain point for any vehicle and or model. But what's the biggest driver that reduces that demand? Price point.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're at a point where, all the rich people wanted to do a lot of people wanted to do it for different reasons. You had the tech geeks who just wanted to be, ahead of the curve on the technology in it. You had those who need to do, what they've always done, and that's virtue signal to all of their neighbors. And all of the overwhelming majority of these individuals are wealthy. And they are trading in. Remember the GM CEO who said, yeah, the people trading in are trading in luxury vehicles, gas-powered vehicles, for these electric vehicles. That's what we're seeing. These are wealthy individuals who are getting taxpayer dollars. Take those same wealthy individuals and take the true cost of that EV from the manufacturer, add on just $100 profit, and see if any of those wealthy people are willing to buy it.
No, they wouldn't be, because remember how much they're losing per car. They're not making
$60,000.
Right, they're not making $100
No, they're
profit
not.
on the vehicle.
Nope.
They're losing tens upon
They
thousands of dollars on the cars.
So that there would be very little demand.
By the way, the Republicans need to also, for example, when he came out and goes, well, no, because of the great increase in manufacturing jobs during the Biden administration, and and it's so bogus because we're talking about COVID, what happened after COVID.
Right.
The last administration lost, millions of manufacturing jobs, and we've brought back millions of manufacturing jobs. No, you haven't.
You're talking about the openings, the closing, and then reopening after COVID.
After COVID, right, exactly.
And you are.
But I think I do like the way that Scott Perry made the point, as we have made, if you've listened to this show many, 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 many times, and the unions finally realize it. And Sean Fain, I'm so glad that he had that quote. I didn't know until I heard Scott Perry that Sean Fain had made those particular comments about subsidies.
Yeah.
But the fact is, they're taking your taxpayer dollars. Think about this. Your taxpayer dollars are going to kill union jobs in this country.
Yep.
And then Buttigieg starts talking about, the jobs going to China. Goes, so you're saying to stop the jobs going to China, we have to kill American jobs with taxpayer dollars. I mean, It's just the most bizarre thing.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're doing.
The
fact of the matter is,
mindset.
You're not going to make that horse drink.
Look, this is where one of the things that frustrates us, and we've been doing pretty good. I know, was it last Monday or this Monday and the Monday before? Well, we had some frustrating times on the show. But it's because when you know that the other side has no arguments and you can tear them apart, then you need to tear them apart every single day.
Yep.
And you need to show the people of America what idiots these people are. That the con jobs, the bull crappers that they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they're selling you crap. But it's true. It's absolutely true that not just here in the EVs in the automobile industry, but across the board, your tax dollars are being spent to make your life harder. Your taxpayer dollars, if you live in the city, are going to make your quality of life a living hell.
Well, and here's the thing. Pete Buttigieg the other day, also they got into the charging infrastructure. And he says, well, yeah, if you're commuting 200 miles a day, stop it. We're talking about a country where we've gotten used to being able to get in our car even on just a weekend or on vacation with our family. Or if our family needs us and we have to travel, we get in our car and we go. And you don't even have to listen to the incompetent Pete Buttigieg. Listen to the CEO of Ford, who on his whole Route 66 thing said, yeah, we do have a problem with infrastructure and charging. We're going to need some help from Tesla on that. It's not there, and it won't ever be there in our lifetime. There may be a continued growth in demand by geeks, but see where that demand is when they have to pay the true cost, which the government won't let them do. Why?
As you said, Buttigieg knows nothing about science. You could have gotten a smart elementary school student, a junior high school student that knows more than Buttigieg does about science and electricity and transportation. He's absolutely clueless.
He is.
Absolutely clueless.
Yep.
And his arguments are childlike, emotional arguments.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. A supporting document is a document generated or received by a motor carrier in the normal course of business that can be used by law enforcement to verify a driver's logs. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, including receipts for meals, lodging, and fuel, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, one of the things, and we never talked about it, we at least have to mention this before we get out of here. Later on, we still have plenty of time in the show, but I didn't want to forget this, is there's going to be a lot more calls about and a lot more emphasis on the president's cognitive problems after yesterday. You saw
it was a horrible day.
He gave the speech yesterday, and number one, he told the lie about Charlottesville again, but he said it once. Then he went through a couple of sentences, and he repeated it almost word for word, the exact same scenario, the exact same story that he just told. It was really bad. It was really uncomfortable to watch that.
It was bad, yeah.
And it was the lie of Charlottesville that, Trump said that there's good folks on both sides. And left out, again, the key context of that.
Well, then, walking onto the stage and just walking into a flag that's standing there, walking off the stage without shaking everyone's hand. And at one point,
that was at the UN, right?
Yeah, that was a different event. And then talking also during Hispanic Heritage Month, and then basically talking about the Congressional Black Caucus.
Yeah.
It seems he has no idea where he is. And it's nearly 100% of the time now. It will only be a matter of time before everyone's just going to look around and say, okay, enough stupidity. But they point him in a direction, and then he just wanders, and then he just rambles. And by the way, there's one of the big tells right there. It almost sounded like when he was retelling a story that he had just told a minute before, it's his brain misfiring. That's what's going on there. I can't tell you what's wrong with him, but it's pretty clear right now that he's not all there. That should be a concern to everyone. I think it is a concern to the Democrats. They just don't know how to approach it.
Consider yourself canceled if you don't listen nightly. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you choose, if you can't listen live overnight. All right. We played a ton of audio the last day or two on a number of congressional hearings, and we probably could play enough to take up another 10 shows.
Probably.
But it is Friday, and so I'm sure by the time we get to next week, we've got another debate. We have the impeachment inquiry, so we'll be moving forward, and so we want to make sure that we play some of the interesting audio cuts that happened. This one was Merrick Garland before the Judiciary Committee, and this is Representative Harriet Hagman from Wyoming. And you may say, who? Well, she is the one. She won the at-large seat in the election against Liz Cheney. She barely squeaked by Liz Cheney by what? Was it 105 points?
Yeah, it was so close.
But here she is, and she lays. What I like is she laid it out in. She didn't use, especially in the beginning, legal terms. She uses when she talks about the statute of limitations. She said the Department of Justice had already got the agreement from Hunter Biden's lawyers to extend the statute of limitations. They agreed to it. And still you let it drop. You let it pass. You didn't go through with the deal that they had already agreed to, which is huge because, and then she brings up, and these were felony tax charges. It's tax evasion charges.
Right.
And that's one of the things here when you look at it overall. When you look at Hunter Biden, when you look at all the other, because this is the things we don't know, all the other 9 Biden family members, and remember, when Democrats go crazy, when you say there is probable cause to investigate the president for taking money, they go crazy and say there is absolutely no probable cause evidence or probable cause that would lead you to continue an investigation that the president took any money or any services from Hunter Biden, correct?
Yeah.
That's their argument right up to today.
Right.
I'm not embellishing it at all. That is our argument. Except they're wrong on one point. There is that probable cause evidence that exists out there, and the probable cause evidence comes from, let's do multiple choice here, from Republicans making the allegation without any evidence to back it up?
Right.
No. Number 2, this is your we'll give you just 2 choices. Second choice, Hunter Biden's own words.
If that is his laptop.
Yeah.
If he really is related to the president.
There was another story yesterday where he was saying that, what a victim he is of the entire laptop that he won't acknowledge is his.
Yeah.
Well, how can you be a victim of something that's not yours?
Right.
And it's just hilarious. But the evidence, and some Republican needs to be blunt to any person in the media who brings that one up again. Excuse me, what are you talking about? I mean, there's no probable cause to continue an investigation. The probable cause comes from the president's son, who said multiple times he has given his father half of what he earned.
Yeah.
He actually said. The evidence comes from Hunter. But let's play part of Representative Hagman's comments yesterday, or 2 days ago, in front of Merrick Garland.
We have been investigating very serious charges made about your department and other elements of the Biden administration, which allege ignoring the law to protect political allies from being held accountable for their wrongdoing. One aspect of this allegation, brought by 2 very credible whistleblowers from the IRS, demonstrates a strategy of delaying criminal investigation into Hunter Biden and blocking any investigations into the corruption of Joe Biden. The whistleblower testimony notes that U.S. Attorney David Weiss in November 2022 allowed the statute of limitations to expire, even though Hunter Biden's attorney had already agreed to extend the statute on the 2014 and 2015 charges, which charges included an attempt to evade or defeat taxes and the fraud and false statements related to the $1 million that Burisma paid to Hunter Biden while his father was vice president. During a recent transcribed interview with the committee, FBI officials from the Baltimore field office refused to answer questions about the expired 2014 and 2015 tax charges because they were allegedly part of a, quote, ongoing investigation. Are the tax charges related to these years, in fact, part of an ongoing investigation?
Again, I have no familiarity with the details of this particular investigation.
So you don't know one way or the other?
That's right. I left it up to Mr.
So how are
Weiss.
charges for which the statute of limitations have already expired part of an ongoing investigation?
That's it. We asked that yesterday, did we not?
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, continue here.
Again, I don't know anything about this case.
So why would charges that have already expired because of the statute of limitations be part of an ongoing investigation?
To answer in the hypothetical, because I don't know the facts, often charges from previous times are used as part of an ongoing investigation to inform information about intent, about patterns and practices.
Or other investigations? So are there other investigations into Hunter Biden where this information may become relevant?
I think it's a matter of public record that is a tax investigation of Mr. Hunter Biden with respect to other years.
Beyond the 2014 and 2015?
Beyond the ones that are that you were referring to, I think
Mr. Garland,
Mr. Weiss has already said that during the plea proceeding.
Okay, Mr. Garland, is it standard operating procedure in your Department of Justice for prosecutors to allow the statute of limitations to expire on very serious crimes when the potential defendant has already agreed to an extension?
So there, as I said before, there's no standard operating procedure
Okay.
here.
Maybe there should be.
Well,
If this is an oversight hearing, maybe there should be. Maybe you should adopt standard operating procedures to avoid this kind of a circumstance. Would you agree?
No.
Okay.
Because it's left
According
to
to
the
one of the
discretion
IRS,
of...
you've answered my question, thank you. According to one of the IRS whistleblowers, quote, the purposeful exclusion of the 2014 and 2015 tax years sanitized the most substantive criminal conduct and concealed material facts, end quote. How can Americans trust an investigation run by a special counsel who, by allowing the statute of limitations to expire, irreversibly, quote, sanitized the most substantive criminal conduct and concealed material facts?
The prosecutor in question is an experienced veteran career prosecutor who was appointed by
And we have no reason to trust him, do we?
by President Trump.
Okay. How much in terms of taxes would Hunter Biden have owed on the $1 million he was paid by Burisma?
Well, as you can imagine, since I don't know anything about the facts of the case, I can't answer
Probably
that
about
question.
$400,000. Isn't that right? I mean, you can do the math. You know the tax code.
I don't know anything about the facts of this case, so I'm not able to do the math to apply it to
And by
facts I
failing to
don't know.
pay the taxes on those ill-gotten gains, what would the typical penalty have been, for example, if it was someone who didn't have the last name of Biden or a D behind their name?
I'm sorry. These are all questions you'll have to direct to Mr. Weiss, and that Mr. Weiss will address in his final...
By allowing the statute of limitations to lapse, did Mr. Weiss effectively gift the tax money Hunter Biden owed for the 2014 and 2015 tax years to Mr. Biden?
to say again, the decisions about whether...
Okay, and they got nowhere from it. You know, the interesting thing is, does anybody believe that Merrick Garland doesn't pay attention to the news and doesn't know what's been going on? Because remember, with everything, remember, they brought the case. Everything was going to be gone against Hunter Biden. Everything was dropped,
right?
Or not dropped? Excuse me. Any of the charges, the tax charges, nothing was going to get him jail time. The rest, the statute of limitations had passed. The gun charge was going to go into diversion. The whole thing was to give him no jail time. This is from the prosecution, and he's saying he knows nothing about the specifics of what was broadcast in the news every single day for a significant period of time. Does anybody believe that the Attorney General did not know in the biggest, most publicized case, because it concerns the president's son, where he got a sweetheart deal, that he wasn't paying attention to the news on it? Does any Democrat actually buy that?
Well, because tell me how any case involving the president's son wouldn't gain your, in fact, you would insist by your own standard, you would know everything about the case. And why is that? Because you don't want to be in a situation that you're in now, because you want to make sure that it's handled properly, unless You and everybody else that's working under you at the Department of Justice is trying to find a way to make sure that Hunter Biden doesn't spend a day in jail. And crafting that whole thing took time. In fact, it took a great deal of time so that they could let the statute of limitations expire on some of those items.
And this whole thing, remember, he wasn't a special counsel at that point.
No.
He was never a special counsel. He was just an attorney that was assigned the investigation. And Merrick Garland saying that he doesn't pay attention to anything on a case that is that big of a presidential son, where obviously the news reports lead that the tax evasion and all of those charges did lead to the Biden family and could lead to the president of the United States. And he's saying he didn't pay any attention to any of the news items whatsoever. Does any Democrat believe that? Does any Democrat believe that Merrick Garland does not pay attention to any news concerning the most important investigations in his own department?
Not for a second.
He's lying.
He's absolutely lying. And they crafted this whole thing to give Hunter Biden a walk.
No, they crafted it to keep it away from his father.
Well, that's the reason.
Because that's where it leads to.
That's the reason you give him a walk.
Right.
But I'm talking about letting the statute of limitations expire. I'm talking about the cases themselves, the actual cases.
But the true reason they did that was so it didn't. The number one reason, not the true number one. Number two may have been, let's get Biden off on the rest of the charges.
But as we talk about the prosecution of the first son, we can't let that happen. That's the reason, but that's what they had to craft. And how do you do that? You have to go way out of your way to make sure he doesn't spend a day in jail.
To the point where everyone knew the sweetheart deal was bogus and shocked over the fact that you would let the statute of limitations run out on felony tax evasion charges when even the defense has agreed to extend that statute of limitations.
Look at the hoops they had to jump through to keep him out of jail. Think about that. Yeah. Look at the work that had to go into this. Yeah. This isn't just lying and covering it up. Man, they had to, who knows how many people at the Department of Justice had to be a part of this. And remember, when Hunter's lawyers, the day they literally ran over to the DOJ. Well, now we know why.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I just realized that when you had Representative Hegman there, just going after the Attorney General Garland, the look on his face, I went, "Wow, he looks like somebody I know," and it popped into my mind. He does resemble the actor Addison Powell, who played a rogue CIA agent in the Robert Redford movie 3 Days of the Condor in like 1975. And he's responsible for murdering CIA agents.
Right.
And he looks, when that face, when he gives that face, looks almost identical to the actor in that movie.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.